Welcome to the Inside Views. If you love detailed documentaries about true crime, history, and the moments that changed the world forever, make sure to subscribe, like, and turn on notifications so you never miss a story. Now, let's begin.
But on this occasion, did not. They got out of the car, out of the limousine, and walked into the archway area of the Dakota. To the right, as you walk in the archway area, is kind of a vestibule, which has a doorway, a glass doorway. This individual, Mr. Chapman, came up behind him and called to him, Mr. Lennon, as he arrived at that doorway. And then, in a combat stance, he emptied the Charter Arms .38 caliber gun that he had with him, and shot John Lennon.
Assassination of John Lennon, the murder that shook the world. On the 8th of December, 1980, New York City. A cold Monday night outside the Dakota, an apartment building overlooking Central Park. One of the most celebrated musicians of all time, John Lennon, steps out of a limousine with his wife, Yoko Ono. Within moments, 4 gunshots pierce the air. Lennon collapses, mortally wounded. His killer, David Chapman, doesn't run. He stands calmly nearby, reading a copy of The Catcher in the Rye. This is the story of how a global icon of peace and music was taken from the world by one disturbed fan. A murder that not only ended a life but shattered an era. John Winston Lennon was born in Liverpool, England, on the 9th of October, 1940. By the 1960s, he was a name the entire planet knew. As a founding member of the Beatles, Lennon revolutionized popular music. Songs like Hey Jude, Come Together, and Let It Be turned 4 young men from Liverpool into cultural icons. But Lennon was more than a musician. He was a thinker, a poet, and a voice of rebellion. When the Beatles broke up in 1970, Lennon embarked on a solo career that reflected his personal beliefs. Songs like Imagine and Give Peace a Chance became anthems for a generation weary of war. Still, fame carried its burdens. Lennon's outspoken views on politics and religion often sparked controversy. His marriage to avant-garde artist Yoko Ono only intensified the scrutiny. By 1980, however, Lennon was ready for a comeback. Peaceful, productive, and hopeful about the future. But destiny had other plans. David Chapman was born on the 10th of May, 1955, in Fort Worth, Texas. He grew up quiet, intelligent, and deeply insecure. His early life was filled with emotional instability, religious confusion, and identity struggles. Like millions of others, he idolized the Beatles. Lennon, in particular, was his hero. But over the years, admiration turned into anger. Chapman became a devout Christian and grew offended by Lennon's statements about religion. His life spiraled downward in the late 1970s. He failed in jobs, drifted through relationships, and began showing signs of mental illness. He was diagnosed with depression and harbored violent fantasies. He began to believe that killing Lennon would somehow give his meaningless life importance. The seeds of Chapman's anger were planted years earlier. In 1966, during an interview, Lennon remarked that the Beatles were more popular than Jesus. He didn't mean it as arrogance. He was commenting on the decline of religion in society. But many Christian groups in the United States saw it as blasphemy. Radio stations banned Beatles records. Bonfires were held to burn their albums. The band even received death threats. Although Lennon later apologized, the damage was done. For Chapman, raised in a conservative religious environment, those words were unforgivable. In his twisted logic, Lennon was a false prophet, a man who had mocked Christ. Another influence on Chapman was literature, specifically J.D. Salinger's novel The Catcher in the Rye. The story's main character, Holden Caulfield, hates the hypocrisy of the adult world. He calls people phonies. Chapman identified with Caulfield so completely that he began seeing himself as the character. He felt he had a mission, to expose phonies. To him, John Lennon became the ultimate phony, a man who preached peace and love but lived in wealth and fame. By the end of 1980, Lennon had re-emerged from a 5-year break from music. He and Yoko Ono had just released Double Fantasy, celebrating their love and family life. They lived happily in the Dakota, an elegant building near Central Park. Meanwhile, Mark David Chapman was preparing for his journey to New York City. He bought a .38 caliber revolver in Hawaii and hollow point bullets in Georgia. He arrived in New York on the 6th of December, staying at the Sheraton Hotel. Over 2 days, he stalked the Dakota's entrance, waiting for Lennon. On the morning of the 8th of December, he finally saw Lennon leaving for a recording session. Chapman asked Lennon to sign a copy of Double Fantasy. Photographer Paul Goresh captured the moment, the last photograph of Lennon alive. That night, at approximately 10:50 p.m., John Lennon and Yoko Ono returned home. As Lennon stepped out of the car, Chapman called out, "Mr. Lennon." When Lennon turned, Chapman fired 5 shots from his revolver. 4 bullets hit Lennon in the back and shoulder. The musician stumbled toward the building, saying, "I'm shot. I'm shot." He collapsed in the lobby. Doorman Jose Perdomo wrestled the gun from Chapman. When police arrived, Chapman was standing calmly nearby, reading The Catcher in the Rye. He told officers, "Yes, I just shot John Lennon." Lennon was rushed to Roosevelt Hospital but was pronounced dead at 11:15 p.m. He was just 40 years old. The news spread instantly. Radio and TV interrupted regular programming. Fans flooded the streets outside the Dakota, singing Beatles songs and weeping. For many, Lennon's death felt personal. He had been more than a celebrity, he was a symbol of hope, peace, and imagination. Mark David Chapman was arrested without resistance. He was charged with second-degree murder. Psychiatric evaluations found him competent to stand trial, though he exhibited signs of delusional thinking. He initially planned to plead insanity but changed his plea to guilty, saying that God had instructed him to do so. In August 1981, Chapman was sentenced to 20 years to life in prison. The judge described the murder as a senseless act of calculated evil. He was sent to Attica Correctional Facility before later being transferred to Wind Correctional Facility in New York. In prison, Chapman became a born-again Christian. Over time, he expressed regret, admitting that he killed Lennon for fame. "I thought by killing him, I would become somebody," he said in a 2010 hearing. Despite expressing remorse, his parole requests, 12 so far, have all been denied. The board repeatedly cites the premeditated and callous nature of the crime and its devastating impact on millions worldwide. Yoko Ono continues to oppose his release, stating she still fears for her safety and that of others connected to Lennon. John Lennon's death marked a turning point in popular culture. It shattered the illusion of safety for public figures and highlighted the dangers of obsessive fandom. Governments and media outlets began discussing tighter gun control and mental health awareness. Artists around the world paid tribute through concerts and recordings. In Central Park, a section called Strawberry Fields was dedicated to Lennon, a living memorial to peace. In Iceland, Yoko Ono later built the Imagine Peace Tower, a glowing light that shines every year from his birthday to the anniversary of his death. Decades after his death, John Lennon's influence remains undiminished. His songs continue to inspire movements for peace, justice, and unity. Imagine is sung at protests, vigils, and celebrations across the globe. Lennon's murder changed the relationship between celebrities and their fans forever. It exposed the potential danger of obsession and the fragility of fame. For many, Lennon's vision of a peaceful world remains a guiding light. As he once sang, "You may say I'm a dreamer, but I'm not the only one." Mark David Chapman's actions were born from delusion, jealousy, and twisted belief. But the result was the loss of a man who gave the world music that transcends generations. John Lennon's voice was silenced, but his message endures. Every note, every lyric, every dream of peace continues to echo. In the end, Lennon's life reminds us that while violence can destroy a man, it cannot destroy an idea. His dream of a world united by love and imagination still lives on, in every corner of the planet where his songs are played. This has been The Assassination of John Lennon, the Murder That Shook the World, of the Insight Views documentary. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more true crime and historical documentaries every week. Your support helps us bring more stories directly to you. The Insight Views. Sharper focus. Deeper insight. Uncovering stories, revealing truths. Turning headlines into understanding.